Welcome to the Warships Podcast with your host, Kelorn, and Aerrroon.
Hello and welcome to episode 122 of the Warships Podcast. I'm your host, Kelorn, and Aerrroon joins me to welcome SirVenom IK to the show. Welcome back, Venom. It's been quite a while since we had you on the show.
Something like 2 years, bro.
Can you believe that the podcast has been going on that long?
Yes, I can. You guys do a fantastic job.
Well, we appreciate the compliment, but it does. Sometimes it's a little hard to believe that we've been making the show for quite that long. Last time we had Kami as our co-host. I guess from the outside, what have you noticed about having, since we've changed the format with Aerrroon coming in as Kami joined Wargaming?
Well, it's always nice to get a different perspective, and Kami is very knowledgeable about the game, and congratulations on making that promotion there. But just keeping it up, it's really all you can do is just keep going and adjust and have Aerrroon fit into the deal, and he fit in famously. So
I think it was his sense of humor, don't you?
Yeah, he's a pretty funny duo.
So you are actually coming down to USS Texas this weekend, which is why we had you on the show today, right?
That's the plan. We hope to make it. Me and maybe one of my children, maybe two. I don't know. A couple of them are sick right now, so who knows? But we're looking to get there. I've never been to Houston, so I'm excited to get down there and meet you and meet all the beautiful people from Wargaming that are down there.
Yeah, so I was talking to Kami this weekend, and 300 people have signed up to go to this thing this weekend.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I know Wargaming doesn't have to do anything for us as a community, but they choose to, and I find that absolutely fantastic as in a gaming company that is willing to put their people out there and meet the community, get the meet and greet, and you know, from my understanding, there's like, you know, face-to-face conversations with the community. It's always a beautiful thing when a gaming company does something like that.
So you've got a bit of a haul, a bit of a drive to get down to Houston, right?
Yeah, it's about 10 hours, but we're going to do it because it's a labor of love, right?
Exactly. Well, I only have about three and a half to go from Austin. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. I got my hotel all lined up, and yeah. Are you staying at this hotel with everybody? Will I see you on Friday night?
Well, actually, my dad lives in Plano, so I'm going to drive down there one night Friday and then get up and drive on into Houston and then turn around and go back the next night. So try to save a little bit of cash.
Ambitious. That's ambitious. Well, no, we're definitely looking forward to you seeing you. I think it'll be me, you, and Sea Raptor are going to be the CCs that are there, and I think we have our own little segment to meet people.
Oh, that's awesome, man! I got a hat, and people can come sign the hat. So one of my graduation caps. So if you guys, I'll get your Herbie Hancocks on there too.
Awesome. Yeah, I ordered some stickers, so I'll be handing out podcast stickers. So make sure if you guys are coming to come and get some stickers. Now, I did want to say one thing real quick about this. It was just reiterating that something that Fem posted on the Facebook event, and that's that when you get there, if you're going to the Texas this weekend, make sure that you guys go and find the Wargaming table, sign-in table, because that will get you the discounts to get you on the battleship. If you buy your ticket first and then go to the Wargaming table, they can't get you the discount. So make sure that you go to the Wargaming table first, get your discounted rate and all that jazz. One of the things you said you haven't been down to Houston, Venom. The Texas there's not a lot of room on deck. Like, it's a big ship, but like it's so packed with stuff on the deck. 300 people. I don't know what we're going to do.
I stand around, just kind of push each other over the rails. I have no idea. I can't wait to get in there, though. Texas is historic. I mean, it's like the most fought battleship, isn't it? If I remember my history correct.
Something like that. Now, I expect that a few Texases may be given away in game while we're standing there on deck. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, that would be pretty awesome. Here's a code.
So we got a bit of a shock today as Wargaming decided to inform us last minute that Exeter was not only finalized and didn't need a work in progress stamp anymore, but they're actually up for sale. And oh, by the way, here are all of the Soviet battleships on your live accounts. Have fun. So we talked a little bit about the changes to Exeter a couple of weeks ago, but I honestly expected us to see another round of testing before she was finalized. I'm not going to lie, I find this version of the ship to be really unimpressive and not really all that fun to play, unlike her predecessor. But you can't get me wrong, because Exeter needed a nerf from your initial version that we played of her. I just kind of expected us to see a couple more iterations, because I really don't find this one to be fun. It's kind of mad. Did you guys have any better impressions of this final version of Exeter, Venom? I know you haven't had a chance to talk about it on the show.
The Exeter, I found it even before they did the nerf and took the smoke away from it. I didn't really had too much enjoyment out of the boat. I did right before they took it away from us, started figuring out the boat and how the AP was just absolutely monstrous. And HE, you always start out when you're playing a new boat. All right, let's start out the basics here. Let's fire HE, see how it does. Now let's switch over. And I just swapped over to the AP before they took it away from us the first time. Second time around, it's okay. It depends on how they release it and what they're going to do with it.
Aerrroon, what about you? I know that you are never the biggest Exeter fan, but do you find any solace in what happened to it?
No. What? Why would I? Yeah, I don't. That change did not make much sense to me, and I really hope they do something to change it.
Yeah, I feel like she needs some help. I mean, I like the idea of getting the British cruisers as premiums, the heavy cruisers as premiums, but right now, where Exeter ended up, it's just not fun. And, it doesn't have the armor to survive. The heel isn't crazy enough that you can take some hits, and it can't hide because it's pretty detectable, especially when it fires those guns.
I don't know. I don't know, man. I can figure out how to make this thing work. It's an open. I've been playing it open water. I'm not really humping islands like I would normally do in, say, the American cruisers. But hiding in smoke, since you don't have it now. But I've been playing this thing open water, and it seems to do okay. And at Tier 5, it does great against other cruisers. It kind of struggles against battleships, but what cruiser doesn't? And overall, it's okay. I mean, it's not very good. It's not terrible. It's just kind of middle of the road.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. Maybe something will happen, and somebody will figure out something we don't know about this thing, and it'll fix itself up. But for right now, I would personally pass on buying it unless you're a real big Royal Navy cruiser type person,
or you're just a ding dong that has to collect everything, got to catch them all Pokemon.
Yeah, there are those guys in the game. Like that is absolutely a group of people, the people that collect everything. So I guess, Aerrroon, I'm assuming that you would do a no buy on a recommendation.
Well, I don't really recommend ships, especially when to buy and not to buy, because if I were to do that, and if I were to think about it from my own perspective, then the answer would be no buy on almost every single ship. So it's not a great idea for me to do. But yeah, I don't think I would recommend the Exeter. Even I think she would have to be substantially changed before I would recommend her. And I honestly think that might be possible, that it's going to happen. And it's going to be a surprise to us yet again.
If it does happen, I think you're right. It'll be another surprise. On the other hand, I want to like the Soviet battleships. That's really not to say that I do, but I want to. And I want to make one thing very clear about the Soviet battleships. They do not and cannot snipe. If you're sitting in the back lobbing shells with these ships, you'll be lucky to hit one shell per salvo. They want to push, they want to brawl, and you know what? When they do it, they're actually pretty good at it. I've enjoyed the brawling that I've done in them. The problem with these ships is the meta of the North American server. And I'm interested to get your perspective on this in a minute, Aerrroon. But unless you're in a division of with people who will push with you, I've gotten abandoned by my team in every push I've made in these ships. Every single push. Now, I've only played like 5 games, so it's a pretty small sample size, but it is infuriating and frustrating because I was able to kick in the door of the enemy team on almost every time that I tried with these ships, but no one from my team could or would follow it up. Now, we talked a little bit about this a couple weeks ago, that the Russian server tends to be very much more brawly, and that these ships are kind of much more well suited to the Russian server kind of play style. And I want them to work. I want it, but I think that this is one of those times where you're going to see them perform dramatically differently depending on what server you have them on.
I've been playing. I've played a couple of games in these things, and the tier 5, the tier 6. That I've only got a couple of games in each of these, and under 15 kilometers, these things are monsters, absolute monsters. Over that, I'm slinging HE. Under that, AP all day long. Pushing on our server has never been a thing. You might have your own guys, or you might do a troll division of Massachusetts or whatever, and just go right at the enemy. I find the American server extremely passive right now, especially with the CVs still being wheedled out. There's still a lot more balling up, but they're not doing anything with the ball. It's very frustrating right now.
So I haven't actually paid any attention to the Soviet battleships until today. The patch actually ended like 6 or 7 hours ago here, so I've only got a few games in, and I've only played the tier 10 one, the Kreml. And the thing is that I went into it blind, as in I didn't know anything about it other than the fact that she has good accuracy at short range, bad accuracy at long range, and she has a radar that can spot battleships and carriers. That's it. I actually even made a video about it. It should be live even before the podcast goes up, where I take a first look. So I haven't seen anything about the ship. And I found that so far, maybe she will be very powerful, but it certainly didn't feel that way to me. She definitely isn't weak, but I would put her like in comparable to somewhere like Conqueror or Montana or something along those lines. Like, she had her advantages and disadvantages. I don't think she is as good of a pusher as like a Grossa Kurfürst, even though she really wants to push with the main battery guns. But the reason why is that her armor scheme just isn't as good as the Kurfürst's, because her citadel sits much higher in the water, and she doesn't have quite the same really good armor plates that the Kurfürst has. Then she also doesn't get like a hydro. Her maneuverability is actually even worse. She is slower. So there are disadvantages to the ship. But the accuracy on those guns was pretty spectacular. The very first salvo I ever did with that ship, I did 35k damage on a Montana from like 15 kilometers. It was
That's the magic number, though. That's that 15-kilometer number.
Yeah. But I have to echo your complaint about the team not going with you. The very first game I played, I went on one side of the map, and I was the only one that ended up basically pushing. And the enemy team balled up in that exact same spot. Of course, we won the game. I mean, the entire enemy team was basically against me, whereas my team took control of the rest of the map. But the people that were on that side, they broke away and fell back, whereas I was unable to do it. I think the ship suffers from HE quite spectacularly. I think fire prevention is going to be an absolute must on that ship because, well, she only gets 5 damage control parties, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a good point there. I guess, what were you guys' thoughts on the 457s on Kreml? Venom, did you play Kreml at all, or just did you play the low tier ones?
I've been watching. Was watching a couple of guys play it, and the 457s. They seem, they're 17.9 inches. I mean, they're big guns. I mean, that puts them on almost Yamato level and up near the Republic, and I foresee a lot of really nasty pins. Can it lull pin? Probably. I don't know the actual pin values.
Yeah. So that's the thing about them, that they can't face pen 32 millimeters bow armor. Now, one thing that they are very good at that I found, and maybe Aerrroon, you can back me up on this, they are ridiculous at killing bow on cruisers.
Yeah, as long as that bow on cruiser isn't something that you can't overmatch.
Right, no, not like Moskva or Stalingrad, but as long as it's like any of the USN or the Royal Navy or any of the cruisers that aren't the Soviet ones, it just wrecks them bow or stern on.
Yep. the accuracy on those is so spectacular that you can pretty much reliably hit like a cruiser that's bow-oning you. And I think that's going to be fairly interesting, particularly because she has the same advantage as the Republic does, where she can overmatch the 30 millimeters of armor that many cruisers nowadays have, which, they use to bounce regular AP shells from tier 10 battleships like Montana. This doesn't work against the Kreml, which means that she's going to be spectacular at killing cruisers.
Which I'm all for, because there's nothing worse than getting HE spammed to death in battleships. And if you can actually retaliate reliably, then I will pull back on my complaints that HE spam is way too much and the fire chance is too high versus the dispersion on battleships right now. So if they start this and this actually goes through the way it is with the accuracy on these boats, I'm gonna play pretty much nothing but Russian battleships with that accuracy.
One of the interesting things I found is that as a consequence of the accuracy, Aerrroon and Venom, is that they're nasty versus destroyers. Like the destroyers that you do see, because they tend to be under that 12-kilometer range that when you actually are firing at them with a battleship, the accuracy, hitting 5, 6, 7 shells on a destroyer is not uncommon with these things.
Yeah, let me tell you something, man. We were sitting on Big Race today in the very first game that I played. My very first volleys, the obligatory HE spam, because I forgot to hit the number 2 button, and I hit this guy for 8,000 damage. I'm hitting an Isokaze from 12 kilometers away. He died one volley, not from me. I hit him for 8K. Somebody else hit him for the rest of it. And it just instantaneously death. So I like these a lot. I like these little really high damage accurate shots. I don't think that they'll stay at tier 5 like that being that accurate, but man, right now it's fun to play.
I haven't actually tried her against destroyers. I just never got a shot off on them, but I do think that they probably aren't going to keep the accuracy they have. I think we're probably going to either get like a small nerf on the accuracy, it'll be toned down slightly, maybe a little bit of Sigma nerf, something along those lines. Or maybe instead of doing that, they might want to instead give them normal battleship accuracy, maybe, slightly worse at longer range, but then make it so that if you use the radar and the radar spots the target, then you get better accuracy against them, or something along those lines.
That would be a good and interesting mechanic, because I find the radar right now to be pretty useless. Like it just doesn't do anything for me.
Well, I spotted Jean Bart once with it.
Sorry, I should be more specific. The radar on the Soviet battleships that only detects battleships and carriers, it's pretty useless. But go ahead, Aerrroon.
Yeah, I mean, I spotted the Jean Bart with it. It was great, except nothing came from it because it's a battleship. She would have been spotted 2 seconds after that anyway.
I guess, would you guys advocate for cruisers being spotted by this radar?
No, not with that accuracy.
I think, oh yeah. Your biggest threat out there is not the DDs right now as a battleship. Your biggest threat is that HE spam. And if I can get them off of the board, I'm all for it. Let's ruin those cruisers' days, because they're in behind the islands. They're real tight. And if you can launch and get in there, yeah, I'd say yes.
I mean, I that was where I was at with it. Like it either like so some of the high tier ones, you don't have a choice of something else to take. So it's like, okay, well, why do I even have this? Because it doesn't really do anything. So I think something like what you were talking about, Aerrroon, where you get the accuracy if you're radaring something, in which case I do think it should it should be revealing cruisers. But if you are not radaring, you have lower accuracy. Something like that would make the gameplay worthwhile.
Anytime that they can speed up the game or push the game closer together, I'm all for. Does this speed up the game? Does this bring the game closer together? It's yet to be determined. So I tend to agree. I agree with you, man.
I have a question about the damage control party. Do you guys think that that's going to be more of a liability than an advantage? Because while it is a nice 20-second duration and 40-second cooldown, you only have 5 of them, meaning that you're going to be in a lot of trouble at some point.
I don't think so. And the reason that I think is that is because I don't really anticipate these aren't the ships that you're going to be playing they're not going to be the ones that survived at the end of the game, for the most part. I think that these are the ships that you're going to use to break the enemy team, but you expend them to do it. So in that case, I think that the amount of them is going to be less a big deal than it may seem like right now. But I do think that you are going to have to be running things like Superintendent and the Premium Consumable to have 5, because 3 is just not going to be enough.
Yeah. What? How many times do you hit your repair now in any other battleship in a game?
Quite often.
5, 6 times?
No, much more often, because when I have a singular fire, I'm going to damage control party that when I don't think I'm going to get torpedoed, because honestly, like one of the games in the Kreml, I took literally 50k fire damage from single fires because I didn't, I refused to use damage control party on it because I figured, hey, I might need it later. And I would have used it on any other battleship, but I wasn't any other battleship.
So one thing to talk about in addition is that the 457s on Kreml, Aerrroon, they have 800 meters per second initial velocity, which compares to 780 on Yamato's 460s, and on Conqueror it's even less. The Conqueror's 457s have an initial velocity of 762 meters per second for the AP. That's a pretty big delta in terms of actual kinetic energy of the shells, and kind of goes along with the 15,500 AP shell damage.
I was kind of surprised too, but I mean, I don't think it really makes. Yeah, it'll make shots easier, but I mean, you're going to be close range with these ships anyway due to accuracy, so I don't really mind it too much, because you're not going to be taking advantage of the long range as much as you would on like a Yamato anyway.
I guess I was thinking of it less in terms of ranged shots and more in terms of just sheer penetration power.
Well, I think that's very good that the ship has a lot of penetration power, because, I mean, that's kind of what she seems to be for.
Yeah, no, I'm still playing around with which shots you can and can't take in her. I haven't gotten to play with something like a bow on Musashi or something showing the cheek or whatnot, or even in Montana where you're trying to get through that kind of absurd belt armor. So I do. And then I don't know how she's going to perform against the German battleships. Did you shoot many of like the Grosser Kurfürsts and stuff like that where they have the turtleback? How were the shells performing?
Nope, I did not run into any of those, unfortunately. Only Montanas and similar. And against those, they just decimated them.
Man, I hate to keep going back to Tier 5 and Tier 6, but these are the two that I played the most. But on the lower tier Germans, I fought the Koenig and I fought a Baron, and they seem to do okay. I mean, like if you bow onto these things, they really didn't do too well. I mean, it's a Baron, and the turtleback did its job. But I can see if you do hit 3 or 4 of them right on the nose, you're gonna do a significant amount of damage. But on the side, it's still upper armor belt to get maximum damage.
One thing I did want to mention is that on Lenin, the premium tier 8, the number 2 turret is 360.
Now, why can't they do that for the Izumo
or the Nelson? But it's hilarious. Yeah. I didn't expect it. And so I turned around and like my turret went, I was like, is this supposed to do that?
That's always fun. It's always fun to see that, man. I love the 360 turrets on everything because it gives you so much more potential angles and potential fire on cruisers, destroyers, whatever. And I like to see them on battleships more often.
You sure you didn't get the bug which makes your turret sometimes turn 360?
Maybe, but it happened, so let's try it out. Well, Alaska was finally released to much fanfare from the community, both for 1 million free XP and I believe for $79 in the premium shop. The premium shop is down right now with the NA server, so I can't check. But that said, the community has been kind of screaming that 1 million free XP is too much. It shouldn't have increased from 750,000, and that paying 250,000 more free XP for a ship isn't worth it because Alaska isn't that much better than Kronstadt, Missouri, or Musashi. So I guess, are they right? Is 1 million free XP too much? And what are your thoughts about this being sold concurrently in the premium shop and for free XP like Jean Bart was?
I don't think it. I think honestly, I think 1 million is cheap. I think that they could have charged 2 million free XP for the Missouri for the results that you got out of that in the Musashi. I don't really like to compare battleships to cruisers because it is a cruiser, and you can't really put value on the way that performed when that was the very first one versus what they have learned from there moving forward. Is it worth the 1 million? It's worth it. It's all relative to that particular person. Is this boat better than the Missouri? It's relative to that person. Some people don't like the Missouri. Some people are going to love this boat and not like that one. So it's all relative. A lot of people I've got into an argument on Twitter with some guy saying, well, this is 33% more. And I'm like, dude, it doesn't matter. Just get it, play it, enjoy it, and wait for the next boat that comes out that's going to be 2 million if they put out a battleship,
I think the prices. So I don't think the ship needs to be better for the price to be higher. I just think Wargaming realized that they should increase the price in general because of the fact that people simply have more stuff nowadays, and it's much easier to get free XP and all that. So I find it to be quite okay that it's more expensive. And I think is it worth it? I don't know. That depends on the person. But I do think that it's okay that the price is higher. I mean, it'll be bad for the people who are starting out, I suppose, but even they should have a much easier time getting XP and free XP nowadays than, we used to.
So you guys are okay with the idea of selling a tier 9 premium in the shop and for free XP at the same time?
Doesn't bother me. I mean, people are going to whale it. I know was talking with another streamer last night, and he spent the $140 on it and got everything that he wanted to get. And hey, that's his prerogative. It's supporting the game that gives him more opportunity to do more things. So I have no problem with it. Not at all.
I actually think it's a good thing, although I don't know about the price part, but I think it's good because otherwise people would simply, buy like free XP buy doubloons, then use those doubloons to convert free XP and then finally buy the ship. So I don't think there would be all that much of a difference. Yes, we'll get arguments about, oh my god, this new person that has never played the game bought the tier 9 ship and all, and then went into my match and ruined my match, and now my entire year is ruined. Well, I mean, how often do you actually get people who buy a ship at a tier that they've never played? It's so rare that I think it's kind of an overblown problem. You'll just, I don't know, you'll play the one game, you find the person in, next game you probably won't get them, and you will likely not ever even get them in a game again until they've, leveled up a bit.
I think it goes to that's their money. They can do what they want to with it. Are we discomforted or are we put out by them one game or maybe 3 games that we actually play with this guy over the course of a year? Fine, whatever. That's 3 games. It doesn't matter. The bottom line is you cannot get better at this game unless you go into and play the game. And regardless of what anybody else happens on the board, you have to play it and you have to be bad. So.
Well, there's one other thing. Statistically, it's more likely that they're going to be on the enemy team than your team because, hey, there's 11 slots on your team, but 12 on the enemy.
Trust everyone to find that silver lining. So the Royal Navy carriers are coming, and you heard you can earn them via the Fly, Strike, Win, Avenge, and Patch 0.8.1. This isn't the first time they've allowed early earning of tech tree ships for an upcoming line, but we've never really discussed the impacts of doing so on the game. Do you guys support releasing ships via missions that would normally be earned in the tech tree? And does the tier inflation of the player base that this engenders hurt the game? Meaning they don't have to grind that through the line, potentially. They can start at like the tier 8.
I think, I like the idea, but I kind of don't like the fact that people aren't going to play the lower tier ships now, because they'll just jump ahead in the line stuff. But on the other hand, perhaps it's to not screw up matchmaking as much, because every time a new line releases, you'll have like 1 million ships in that one line, especially at the early tiers, like when battleships released, some battleship line released, tier 4 and 5, and all those tiers were filled with battleships for like the first few weeks. And I think they want to avoid screwing up matchmaking like that. And I guess that's okay.
I remember when the German battleships came out, and there was 300 battleship Nassaus in the queue. There was 400 Konings in the queue. When we finally ended that night at 29-0, by the way, we were at tier 7, just plowing through everyone in these German battleships. Now, to answer the question, do I agree? I don't like it at all. I think it's terrible. Number one, for people who have everything, who have played thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of games at some points, I want the content. I am struggling to want to play something, and now they're just giving away half the line. I still have yet to play tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, tier 3, 4, and 5 of the French battleships, because I started at 6. I have never played those other 3 boats because I wasn't forced to, so I'm not going to.
I mean, I think that you're going to see people that once these go away, you'll see the people playing them at the lower tiers at a higher rate. I don't know. I think it's a cool idea for it as the game matures. And maybe that's why they didn't do it early on. But for now, I kind of have mixed feelings about it. Because, I mean, like, personally, I'm like, oh, yeah, sweet. I don't have to play the lower tiers. But I got to try them all. I got to play them all while we're testing. The vast majority of the people that are playing the game don't have that opportunity.
There's a special caveat to my previous statement. And for these same people, Kelorn and Aerrroon, we all have everything. We've all played tens of thousands of games here. I'm desperate for content to play, so them giving us something to do while I'm actually, doing on the live show or just playing by myself, that gives me an objective, and I'm going to be more enjoying of that objective. So I don't like it, but I'm going to abuse and use it while I can. You know what I mean? I mean, that's so it's a 6 in one, half a dozen in the other. You're not going to play these other ones, but I will play this and grind this out.
Yeah, actually, the objective thing is a good point. I find that Ranked probably does a similar thing for me, where I'm just going to spam games because, hey, I want to reach that one point in the future. And when a new line is released, that it feels kind of similar, although now that I have so much free XP, I don't know how much I'm going to, try to grind through a line, because I can just press 2 buttons and I'll just have the entire line, and it's going to be no problem.
Alrighty. Well, we're seeing another round of changes for Neustrashimy, Leone, and Azuma. Namely, a small nerf to the absolutely crazy heal that they gave to Neustrashimy, which I found to be much needed. Leone loses a smoke charge, and Azuma gets a slightly better heal as well as her hydro back. All these changes make sense to me, with the possible exception of Leone, but that brings up another question. Did going too far with the initial changes, only to have to scale them back, negatively impact the final result of these ships or the process of creating them?
No, not at all. Wargaming is notorious for going to extremes on changes. We saw it with the CV change. We went from 500,000 damage to barely doing any damage, and then they've kind of whittled it back up to where they're relatively balanced. We're getting pretty close. So this is just another example. They go one side, they go to the other side. Now they're finding out where the limit is, and they've pushed it back down to the middle. I don't find it bad at all. Now, the Neustrashimy, a very strong heal, did need to be a little bit nerfed. As for the Leone, that boat just needs more help. I mean, it's good. The guns are good. If you're under 6, if you're over 6, they're really loopy. So it kind of honestly reminds me of the Sims guns, and how over 6 they're pretty hard to be effective against small targets. And then if they want to run away, they just turn and run because you're slow. So this is at this point in time, I can only think that the Leone is a meme boat right now. I don't know about you guys.
I like the Leone. I think that she is one of the best anti-DDs at her tier. I will shred any DD that wants to duel me. My problem with her is that the torpedoes are awful. So if you do run into anything other than a DD, you just struggle, in my opinion. And I don't see why they needed to remove one of her smokes. I didn't feel like this, like her smoke felt that overpowered.
Well, in the course of the game, I will agree that the Leone smashes other destroyers, but at some point in time, like I said, the 6 kilometer range is pretty much the comfortable spot that I'm comfortable with continuing that battle, and then they just run away from you. The other smoke, I can see those guns doing pretty substantial damage to battleships in the smoke. I don't think it was necessary to remove one of the full-on smokes. And you're right, the torps are just ridiculously dumb. I barely hit anything. They do hit if you can hit something with them. They do hit relatively hard, but good luck.
I will say that I was really happy to see Azuma's Hydro come back, because playing Azuma without the Hydro was an excruciating experience to me that I actually, as I loved the Azuma when she was the tier 10 ship, I played the crap out of her. More than I've played any test ship ever in this game is how much I loved Azuma when it was the tier 10 version. And when they brought it back at tier 9, the lack of the Hydro just was killing me. Like it was the one thing that made the ship just absolutely unbearable for me to play, because I got so good at manipulating that Hydro to avoid torpedoes coming in at me and to hunt the destroyers that were trying to hunt me. So I just, getting that Hydro back, I'm excited about Azuma again.
Unfortunately, I was not a community contributor when the Azuma was tier 10, so I've only played it a handful of times at the previous tier 9, and I found it was okay. I mean, it wasn't the best. I mean, it wasn't the worst ship at tier 9. If you want to compare it to the other super cruisers out there, I don't think that it with the Alaska being out now, I feel the Alaska is in a better position, or is better than the Azuma was at that previous.
I think that's a play style thing, Venom. Like, the play style of Alaska to me is difficult.
I find, man, I know we're talking about the Azuma, but I find the Alaska very balanced, honestly. It's good at what it does and the way it plays. Now, the Azuma is totally different play style. So, I mean, giving its play style, I'm sure it does fine. But if you try to compare them, I don't think you can. But.
No, and that's not what I was really getting at, Venom. I'm just saying that you may have a playstyle that suits the Alaska better, whereas I might have a playstyle that suits Azuma better. And, so it's not so much comparing the ship versus the ship. It's me playing Azuma versus you playing Azuma, and me playing Alaska versus you playing Alaska. Does that make sense?
No, fair enough. I mean, that's the world. I mean, you have your play styles, I have mine. For the way I was playing the Azuma, I found it okay. I mean, it like kind of mediocre. Maybe it's just I wasn't playing it correctly, and that's a fair enough assessment there, really.
Aaron, what about you? Did you have any thoughts on Leone or Azuma before we move on?
Well, I like Azuma. Her having Hydra again is good, but I don't think that's going to have a very large impact, because as an Azuma, you want to stay further back anyway, so having Hydra isn't going to be that useful most of the time. However, of course, there are these periods of time when you have to go in, and in those cases, Hydra is going to be pretty much vital. And I think cruisers should have access to it, unless they're like special in some way.
I badly want to ask if that means that they're short bus cruisers, but I shouldn't do that.
I don't actually understand the question. Sorry.
I was fixing to ask, what in the world? All right, so enlighten me here. What is a short bus cruiser?
Sorry, let's not go there.
Okay,
we'll take that one off.
I googled it. I understand. Yeah.
I mean, I get the reference. I don't understand how it goes into the cruisers, but
it was the way he said special. Give me a break. It was a bad joke. Alrighty. Well, the Arsenal is getting its name changed to Armory, and in getting some needed interface improvements for filtering, as well as a new camo for USS Black. In addition, we're getting some port UI improvements for banners on the left-hand side, an insignia menu directly from the port instead of having to go through your profile, And server info moved to the main game menu, accessible by the escape key instead of in the top of the screen. Finally, players who aren't service level 15 will have information about their service level on the main port UI, as opposed to having it buried in a submenu. So for me, this is a little optimization and ease of use stuff, but I'm glad to see it because the port has long been one of the few parts of this game that I absolutely loathe. I really hope to see more improvements, particularly in port UI responsiveness going forward, and I think that this is a good indication that they're thinking about stuff like that.
Hey man, the port has been such a pain in the rear for the last 2.5 years. Anything that they can do to make it better, this optimization of the port that they did, it's a little bit slower, but it doesn't stall out like it would usually do last week. So I'm all for anything that they want to do to that port, man. Anything and everything.
Well, my main, I understand that the port is going to become better and all that, but please, for the love of God, don't update the ship when I select a single flag. Just let me pick all the flags like in a menu and then press apply so that it only updates once so I can quickly select all of the flags I want. Because, oh my God, it frustrates me to know tomorrow that I click on a flag, it takes 30 seconds to load. I press apply, it takes another 30 seconds. I click on another flag. Jesus, it takes so long. Okay, it's not 30 seconds, it's like 5 seconds, but it frustrates me so much, and I really hope that I understand it'll take time to fix the port stuff, but give us this kind of workaround until then, because it's just so insanely frustrating. But I do like the changes that they're doing. Could you read the first changes again, like the first 3? There was something I wanted to comment on, but I've forgotten.
About the Armory or the port UI?
The port UI, I believe.
Okay, so they're doing improvements for the banners on the left-hand side, an insignia menu directly from the port instead of the profile.
Okay.
And the server info is moved from the main game menu to the main game menu instead of in the top of the screen.
Okay, no, I can't think of what I was thinking of. Although I do like the insignia stuff change. That's a good one, I think.
Yeah, I mean, having it buried in the profile was always such a pain in the butt.
In the end, the insignia just angers me. I don't like seeing that guy's insignia when he kills me because I've probably done something stupid and I'm upset at myself for doing that particular thing. I don't want to see that guy's insignia or anything at all. I honestly think that they should take him away. But it's a good thing for them to have something to grind for. Hey, here's one. If you do this, if you get 100 kills, then you get this. I'm fine. That gives me something to work for. But I don't want to see what they're doing.
I personally like that. I like it.
Yeah,
mostly because I've got the CC one, and so whenever I kill people, they're like, "What the heck is that?"
Yep. That's exactly it. Especially since I have the 3-year one, so it looks really impressive.
So with that being said, I have the community contributor badge, and then I put the little mermaid that they put out there right in the middle, just to trigger people, because so many people are like, you killed me, rah! and then they send me messages, and you always love those messages after the game's over. They call you a hacker or you're using an aimbot and whatever, and then I get a lot of those from you're little, and then they say a bunch of words that are against terms of service, and I'm like, okay, cool, thanks, screenshot, bang, send it in. I mean, it's hilarious when people get triggered by that, and I know I get triggered by it too. So I guess it's 6 in one, half a dozen in the other. Huh?
It's funny that you were completely opposite sides of that particular coin.
Well, I mean, I enjoy it too when people get mad, though. In fact, I recently was accused.
I've been watching your videos sometimes. You are the biggest damn troll in chat airing your games room. I mean, good God.
Well, I mean, in a recent ranked match that I posted, somebody literally at the end of the match, or when the match was over, messaged me and accused me of cheating. Now, here's the kicker. He was on my team. I don't understand. Yeah.
Why would you do that, dude?
Well, I mean, I had a 200. I had a 250k damage game in the Kitakaze in that ranked match, so maybe that's why.
I got more compliments in ranked this season than I ever have before, just with how much damage I was doing in Musashi.
Yeah, let me tell you something. This ranked, I know it's probably not on our topic, Hill, but I'd like to say something about ranked season this time. I really enjoyed this ranked season, and maybe not the arms race version of it, but just the full on action. It was nonstop action for destroyers.
I don't think that you would have had that nonstop action without the arms race, though. Like I feel that was part of it.
No. I'm all for whatever they want to do to, like I said, bring the game closer together. And this was amazing, and maybe they can re-implement another game mode from ranked. This is what I'm getting at. We got the space battles coming up for the April Fool's event, and I would like to see something like that, like just a nothing but epicenter or nothing but another arms race. That was a lot of fun, and people kept coming into the channel like, yo, you should play the Jutland. And I'm like, I just won 7 games in a row in the 46. I'm going to stay with the 46. And I ranked out in the 46. And I don't think very many people did that.
It was good. It was really good.
It was such a blast to actually play this. And it wasn't the long drawn out games. It wasn't the, let's just sit behind the island and wait for one kill. And then the game is over because you got one kill. That's the slow, boring, very monotonous, like tier 10 meta of what the last 2 full-on rank seasons were. It was just very slow and droll. I actually enjoyed this, and I ranked out faster than any other time I ranked out in. So
did you like really... the 30-second reloads that you got to in the Z46's torps?
You know what? I hit a lot of torps this season. I probably hit more torps this season than I did in any other season. Playing, I usually rank out in destroyers, but I ranked out in the 52, I ranked out in the Yu Yang, and I ranked out in the 46. And I hit more torps this time. I mean, they were there. They were coming at me 90% of the time. They were in the action. I had nothing but action the whole time.
I love this ranked season as well. It was really, really good. I like ranked normally, but this time it was just so much better. In fact, but I did leave ranked at the very end. On the last day, I played 49 games. I played for 16 hours on that last day.
That is insane.
You are a monster.
And I think I went from like the start of rank 6 to rank 1, obviously, in that time. I tried a few things. I actually ran into strangers during a match. Like, he was on my team, and I went on TeamSpeak, and we chatted. We easily won that match. And he was playing the Friedrich der Grosse with like a full secondary build. So I went like, I'm going to try that. I did. Jesus. Those secondaries were ridiculous.
The secondaries on Friedrich der Grosse are the best secondaries in this game. Period. They are better than Kurfürst and they are better than Bismarck. But people don't play for Kurfürst or the FDG because it has such a bad rep for its guns. But its secondaries are ridiculous.
The funny thing is that I went IFHE as well, meaning that all of the secondaries had at least 33 millimeters of penetration, and because the game was so much closer, together, like people weren't like 20 kilometers away this time. It was really, really funny when a cruiser popped up and all the secondaries started firing. Regularly, I would have like a game where I did like 40k damage with my main batteries, and the secondaries would also deal 40k damage in that same game, and the fires that the secondaries would start would deal another 40k damage. It was really funny. Although, in the long run, though, Friedrich didn't work out for me nearly as well as the Kitakaze and the Black did. Those ships were insane. Especially the Kitakaze. Jesus. The worst part about the Kitakaze, in my opinion, was the fact that she was not the best performing ship in ranked, which means that you had ships that did even better, and it felt ridiculous to me. Because you could fight battleships, you could fight cruisers, you could fight destroyers, you could do anything. And it was so awesome.
I found every season... everybody does it. I know a lot of YouTubers do it. I know I do it on the show. We always do, hey, this is the ranked review for the upcoming season. Here's our picks, blah, blah, blah. And I was probably one of the only people that I know of that actually had the Freddy de Grover as a sleeper pick. I was like, this is going to be a good boat. People are going to play this thing. People aren't going to know how to handle it because nobody really plays this boat in randoms. Nobody pushes, and somebody who's really good in this boat is going to do very well. And I had a couple of guys come back, yo, Freddie, you were right, bro. And I was like, yes. Also, the DDs at Tier 9 are phenomenal. If you had a good black on it, you were hard to beat. That's 46 with its hydro. The Jutland was probably the strongest, I think, this season, with just the middle control of the map. And if you could control the middle, you were going to win, hands down.
I will say that we got a comment on the podcast either last week or the week before that we're saying Jutland wrong, and that you guys it's not Jutland, it's Jutland. Just throwing that out there.
Oh, it's Jutland in my book, bro. So it's English.
You know, that's kind of funny because when I made a recent video about Jutland, I got a comment about how no, I should say Jutland.
That's really hilarious. Whatever. We'll table that one. I'm just saying that apparently there's a controversy about how you actually pronounce that. So I did want to talk one second here about the upcoming April Fool's event, which got mentioned, which will be spaceships again. And you'll get to use all of last year's ships along with some new ones that are coming out. Personally, I've always loved the space mode, particularly actually the first version of it that we got as the surprise. And it looks like it'll be pretty cool, handy rewards for playing it this year as usual. Are there any ships that you guys are hoping to see in space battles this year that we haven't seen before?
Well, first of all, what do you mean the first one? I thought the first one wasn't anywhere near as good as the second one. What do you mean?
It was the one that was, I mean, it was, I don't know, I can't explain it, but like it was such a surprise that first time that we got the space battles that it just felt very special and very cool.
Are you talking about the beta version then?
I'm talking about the beta version, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it definitely was a surprise. And I hope that Enterprise will make a return and that we get Yamato again.
Yeah, I would like to see that Yamato model back. I would totally spend 10,000 doubloons to buy the Yamato space camo. No question.
The space battles, I was not around for the first one. I didn't start playing until after closed beta had ended. But the second one that we hit in there, I had such a blast. It was such a good time playing that. And like I said, it's something different. There's something I would like to see come from that. I want to change my AP colored shells from white to some other color. They can do it in space battles. Why can't I do it on regular servers? As everybody remembers, last year the AP shells were green, and I think that they should try to implement that into. But as for ships, doesn't matter. Any of them will be fine. Henry, Charlie Martel. I love the French cruisers. Any of them, man. I love skins, and if I can get skins to set me apart from somebody else, then hey, there you go.
I hope they pick like some of the more popular ships to make skins for. Actually, I don't know what's that popular. Maybe even the stronger ones. I would love to see a Haruguma skin, for example, because hey, it's a strong ship. I think a lot of people would buy something for her because she's a good ship, which means that people are going to play her a lot. And that's obviously going to make it the popular thing to buy skins for.
Well, they actually, I don't know, I'm sure Kelorn was going to get to this. But
no, actually, I hadn't seen that one yet. So please read it.
Yeah, all right. So the special event announcement are to earn space battles and an option to purchase permanent space camouflages. The 9 from last year and 2 new ones, one from Hindenburg and one from Shimakaze. Also, for completing directives of the event, you can get permanent space camouflages for the American and French Tier 6 to Tier 9 cruisers, Pensacola, New Orleans, Baltimore, and Buffalo, La Glacione, Algiers, Charlie Martel, and the St. Louis Tier 9 French route. So there you go.
Could you please say the name of the Tier 10 Japanese destroyer again? Not the Haruguma.
That's the Shimakaze, bro.
That's excellent. I love it. I love
from
it.
Texas, man. Well, we're gonna give him a pass.
I know it's the Shibakaze. I do it on purpose. I love it.
So, man,
I'm not
feel like
triggering.
you like
I love
my
it.
my brain stopped when I heard it. I'm not gonna lie.
I like it. I like it. Just wait. I mean, like, I call it the Demonies. I call them the Pahonics. I mean, I just rip off. I literally called it. Hey, we're gonna play the Tier 4 Pahonics over here, and everybody's like, "Oh, it's Phoenix," and they're like phonetically typing it into the Twitch chat. It's Phoenix. It's pronounced Pheennix, and I'm like, "Yeah, Pahonics." That's what I said.
Oh my god, I need to do that. That sounds amazing.
I need to see a stream of both Aerrroon and SirVenom trolling people as hard as they possibly can together. It would, oh man, that would be terrible.
that sounds utterly amazing. Wow.
Alrighty, well,
It's the little things that people enjoy, you know.
Well, we've got some listener questions of the week. First up is M. Cole from Patreon asks, I've been playing World of Warships for a while, but I recognize the monumental difference in style between PvE and PvP. U.S. cruisers especially suffer from their inability to practice proper gameplay against bots because of their tendency to just charge players head on. And here's my dilemma. I need to learn to play the Des Moines in PvP properly, but people at Tier 10 are very salty and unforgiving. Will I be an a-hole for learning on the job? I've got other Tier 10s that I can contribute with, but predictably, the Des Moines is a particular challenge that I'd like to overcome.
Okay, so here's the thing. You're never, ever a bad person for trying to learn things. People will give you shit. That's definitely the case. But you should never listen to it because, hey, you can't actually learn the game if you don't ever try. And everybody has to go through that at some point. You aren't born, a good Des Moines player or anything like that. You have to learn, and that just means you'll fail a few times. And most of the time when people get mad at you anyway, they get mad because usually it's because they themselves messed up in some way and they just want to find somebody else to blame. And that's why. So, don't take what people say to heart and just keep on trying. It's your game, your fun, not theirs.
I think going a little further, and this is something that comes up in the stream quite a bit when you're trying to help people out with their mental capabilities in this game. It's okay to be bad. It's okay to fail at this game. Don't put so much pressure on yourself to try to go out there and get 100,000 damage every game. Learn it. In the co-op games, it's okay to get the shell arcs down on the Demonies or Des Moines, whatever you guys want to call it. It's okay to go in there and do that, but you're not going to get the full-on tactical experience with this boat playing in co-op. So go out there, fail, die, lose, turn off the chat, and then work on it. I know myself, Kelorn and Aerrroon, and we are all more than willing to help you with mental abilities. If you pay attention, listen to what we have to say, and then you can go and try to apply that to your game. So it's okay, and you can get better. If somebody's willing to learn, we're willing to help.
I'd like to say that I used to go to school about 30 minutes from Des Moines. So I've heard more variations on how to say that name than anything you could possibly go for. But my favorite is always Des Moines, but we'll leave that there. In reality, I agree with these guys. Take it out, play Des Moines. She is a very effective ship. When I first got my Des Moines, I tried to play her open water. I still play her open water to some degree. USN cruisers are really not my forte. So, go out there, play them. If see if you like the USN cruisers at all. If you don't, maybe try another set of cruisers. You might have better luck and have more fun.
Also to be said, get 2 other dudes out there. So if you're really worried about winning a game, get 2 other dudes. Hey, I'm new at this. Can you guys cover me? And maybe they can make up for your lack of understanding of the boat or understanding, and maybe you can still squeak out a win. I always say this game is better played in a division of 3 because would you rather rely on 2 guys that have the like-minded and 9 morons or 11 morons? Which one? Which one would you prefer, Kelorn? I don't know. I think I'm going to take the 9 morons and the 2 guys that I can rely on.
It really that's actually an interesting question, Venom, because I really like to play solo. I really I feel more rewarding when I win a game when I'm playing solo than when I do when I play with two other guys. Yeah, we have a lot of fun. Yeah, we win a lot more, but it's a certain point when I play in a division, I get bored because we win so much. Whereas I find solo playing by myself to be much more challenging.
I was going to say, you find that it's not much of a challenge. I'm interested in hearing Aerrroon's point of view on this as well. What do you think, the division or solos?
It depends on who I'm playing with. I don't really mind playing in a division. It's just that I kind of dislike the fact that when you plan to play together, it means that, you need to get there at a specific time. Somebody's going to have to take breaks randomly, and then, other people will have to wait. It's nobody's problem. It's nobody's fault, really. It's simply the way, playing together with people works. And I don't really enjoy that part of it. However, I don't really have anything against playing with other people. Sure, it can be more of a challenge to play on your own, but I find that there's enough of a challenge in the game in most situations anyway that it's not as big of a deal for me. And I like both, basically.
Fair enough. Well, our next question comes from Eric Jorgensen on Twitter, who asks, "What is your favorite ship in the current meta?"
Depends on the tier. In ranked, I would say Kitakaze. She just felt so much fun. I don't know if Harugumo at tier 10 would fit kind of the same role, because you can't really... As a Kitakaze, you can literally sit in open water and open fire on a battleship. Sure, you're going to take a lot of damage and you're probably not going to win the fight, but you can use your smokescreen and you can be relatively safe in that... the battleship isn't going to hit you for too much damage. As a Harugumo, you can't kind of do that. And because of that, I don't think she kind of fits the same role as well. So, depends on what tier you're talking about, in my opinion. Or even game mode, I suppose.
I tend to agree with Aerrroon there on the Harry Gumbo. It is not as mobile as the Kitakaze, so the Kitakaze becomes more effective with its hit points, I guess. But for me, Atlanta. I just love the Atlanta. It's my favorite boat of all time. I love being able to get up next to an island and just wait for those Colorados or the slow battleships to slowly roll in at you. And in this meta currently, where everybody's balled up anyway, you have a lot of targets to shoot at. You can set a lot of fires and do a pretty substantial amount of damage.
I'm going to have a rather unconventional pick here. I'm going to say Boise. When I want to just mess around and play it for fun, Boise is a heck of a lot of fun. I love the heel. I love the 15 guns. I love that I can just mess around and it tends to get into those, 5, 6, 7 tier 8 matches. It's just a lot of fun, and it's a lot less pressure than playing, some of the higher tiers and doing the testing that we have to do.
I love the Boise. I think the Cossack, the Boise, and the Nuevi were the best two things to come out of 2018 in premium ship wise. I since have gone back and played through the Dallas and the Helena, and I love the Helena as well. But the Boise was the one that actually after playing the Boise, I wanted to go back and get the Helena, because the Helena is that much better. It's such a strong ship at tier 7. The Boise is so that's a fantastic choice for anybody out there.
Alrighty, well, Sebastian on Patreon asks, many would like a premium free ranked season, but Wargaming has always refused. Why do you think that is? Please note I had to rephrase this question because it was not proper English, so I think this is what he asked.
I have no problems with premiums being in there. People spent their hard-earned money on the boats. Let them play them with it. That's more support for the game, more things that Wargaming can work on. And why do we think it is? Because they're paying for it.
That would be the conclusion that I had as well. I disagree, though. I think I would like to see a premium free ranked season, even if it had lower rewards that came out of it. As a compensation, just because I think that it would be really interesting to see how things do when you kind of take that I hate to use the phrase pay to win, but you have that, the paid ships versus the non-paid ships. I would like to see how, because I really feel like that balance right now is a little off kilter in this game. And I would like to see, what happens when you don't have those.
I tell you what, the most hated tier that I have right now for ranked season is 7. But if you want to do that, no premium ships, I'm all for it. I'll back you up 100%, man.
I think tier 7 without premium ships would be a really fun tier.
It'd be different. Those destroyers at tier 7 would actually have a chance because those cruisers are so strong at tier 7.
Fiji is still going to be mean as hell.
You know, when you said what would ranked be like if you didn't have premiums, well, just look at the last ranked season, because, the stronger... You can consider, Kronstadt and Missouri premium ships, sure, I guess that's true. But they aren't exactly ships you bought for money, right? They're ships you
I'm going to stop your argument right there, Aerrroon, with the word Musashi.
Well, yeah, but, even with the Musashi, though, sure, the Musashi was pretty much everywhere. But again, those aren't premium ships people bought for money. They are premium ships people earned. I would consider them to be like a separate category, like a reward ship category instead. And I would argue that tier 9 would be the tier, you would look at if you didn't want to have premium ships. And I guess tier 10 would kind of be the same, right? Except we have the Stalingrad and stuff like that now. But again, those are all still reward ships that you don't buy. But even if you exclude those, I would say the last season would still be fairly similar, though, because, many of the tech tree ships were just very powerful in and of themselves. I do echo you guys' statement about tier 7, though. While tier 7 premium cruisers are very, very strong and they pretty much ruin the game for many of the other ships, I think ranked season would be quite fun without them. Or at least, maybe like a ranked sprint season without them.
That would be a good idea too. As you could make ranked sprint be non-premium.
Although to answer,
No, go ahead.
Okay, so to answer the actual question of why it doesn't happen, it's because, well, premium ships make money for the game. And the problem is that if they do it even once without premiums, it sets a precedent that people are going to be like, well, why don't you do it now? You did it that one time. Why can't you do it this time? And people will demand that, kind of like the earlier question about the free XP thing. If every single free XP ship so far at tier 9 had been 1 million free XP, there wouldn't be a question of why this one is 1 million, right? Like nobody would have a problem with it. So what I'm trying to say is that, if you set the precedent about it, it's likely that people would ask for it again. And obviously that does impact the bottom line, because if you have a game like World of Warships or any kind of game that has very large amount of customers and numbers going around, even small things can impact the bottom line in a significant fashion. And, that also means that some feature might not end up being developed. The game might end up shutting down, I don't know, a few months earlier than it ends up eventually being shut down. Stuff like that. All of this does matter. And wargaming has to pay a lot of attention to it, because while we might, not care so much about their monetization scheme, if the game eventually shuts down, we will be out of a game as well. So, it does impact us too.
Well, I offer this to both of you guys. Well, let's do another ranked sprint. Let's do one without premiums, and let's do one with only premiums. There you go.
No.
What has enough premiums at tier that can handle a ranked sprint 5 versus 5, tier 7.
You know what they should do though? If they do the premium only, they should give us like the like in clan battles you get the ships, right? You don't have to earn them to play, some of those. I think something like that, where you have all of the premiums in that tier available so that people could, try them out and then they could later buy them. Speaking of which, I would really like it if Wargaming gave us the ability to test drive ships without having to pay anything. It sounds ridiculous that we don't have such a feature.
We're talking about the rental ships. I'm okay with the rental ships. If they want to spend $5, pay it for a week. If they like it, then fine.
No.
But I understand what you're saying. You're saying that you want to do it. You want to test that ship out before you even want to buy it for nothing. And I'm okay with renting it. And I'm okay with whatever.
Well, I mean, it could be like in-game credits or some other thing like that, just not real money. I don't think rental ships for real money makes sense. In fact, I think that kind of a feature actually is going to backfire or already has backfired.
I suppose it all depends on what ships they do. They've so far I've seen the La Terrible, and I believe this week's the Ashitaka. And I don't know. The Ashitaka's got some really good guns. I don't know. I don't. If I was going to look for to buy one, I would definitely want to test it out. If it's $5, hey, if I don't like it, then all I've done is spend $5, and that is okay, and I can throw that $5 away. But if I do like it, hey, it's $35 coming back the other direction to finish out purchasing the boat. So I don't have a problem with it.
Speaking of which, hey Kelorn, what do you think of the Ashitaka? Do you think that she's a great ship?
Imagine for a moment a cylindrical object made of corrugated steel with stuff in it that you've discarded on fire. That's what I think of Ashitaka.
So every other battleship. Now, well, I like the Ashitaka. It just does not tank at all. It cannot tank any kind of shells, but it can absolutely smash anything on the board. It is in such fantastic.
It's a hugely better spot than it was when it was released. I will hands down say that. But man, it's a dumpster fire for me. Like that is not the ship I want to play. Maybe it's because I played too many Amagi games.
Man, I tell you what, and I find that I play better in the Ashitaka than I do in the Amagi. The Amagi is a dumpster fire for me. Every other game.
You and I apparently have vastly different play styles, and we're learning this on the podcast.
Well, it's not even the play styles. I mean, it's our experiences, right? So my experience in the Amagi is every other game I can't hit the broadside of a barn, and I'm shooting the same shots from one game to the next. And I absolutely smashed one game, 140,000 damage plus or 40,000 damage. There was no middle ground when I played through the Amagi. So once I got to the Izumo, I sold it. Now, I love the Izumo. I think the Izumo is a phenomenal boat. And this is before any of the buffs. I thought it was great. And people said I was crazy.
Well,
you're crazy.
Well, we do have a couple more questions we have to finish off here. So Zippy Chippy on the forums asks, would you have a CV Torp do more alpha damage and no flooding chance, or less damage and more flooding chance? And I think he's getting into what we were talking about last week, is this whole flooding chance thing is all weird because it got changed.
Both.
I with the CV rework, I had concerns about dot stacking. I absolutely hate dot stacking because I am on fire all the time anyway. As a battleship player or a cruiser, I'm on fire. Now I'm going to be on floods all the time. And now there's 2 floods that, hey, fine, that flooding needed to be changed, and I'm okay with the flooding change. I think that if they're going to continue to keep the flooding where it is, they need to look at the damage control party and maybe adjusting some of the damage control party numbers to where it's a little more stable across the board, because some of them are down for 6 seconds. So what would I like to see? I would like to see higher alpha with a little bit less flood chance. So I'd throw a third option in there.
I would like to see, I would like to see different ships. So some ships have much lower alpha and higher flooding chance, and other ships have much higher alpha and no flooding chance. And I think that would make it more interesting, like make it like nation style or line. You have like your British carriers or American carriers, and their torpedoes are excellent at flooding, but maybe deal terrible damage, or the other way around, something like that. So people would, no, hey, it's an American carrier, they're coming in. These have a high flooding chance. I should save damage control party for these. Or if they end up running into Japanese torpedoes, hey, these deal a high amount of alpha damage, but they don't cause floodings, or they have a low chance of causing floodings. You could play around that, and it could differentiate CV lines, and I think that's how it should be. Yes, flavor.
I actually think that you're right on with that. So, and our last question for the week is from Navy Store on Patreon, who asks, now that the Alaska is in the wild, what historic ship do you think Wargaming should release in the next year? Since I too want USS Washington released, how would it be differentiated from the other Tier 8 USN battleships?
All right, so
Vanessa's gonna be so mad she's missed this.
I have a caveat to the first question here on Navy Shore's question. Number one, I thought about this long and hard right as I got these questions, and I instead of bringing in a historical ship, I would like to see the Bliz Khalifa, the Bliz Khalifa, however you say it. I would like to see that come back to. Yeah, what he said. I would like to see that one come back into prominence because it's a phenomenal ship, but it has been so what's the word? It's been so overshadowed by everything else at that tier. Yeah, there you go. Power crept. It's been so power crept. I would like to see this one come back into prominence.
Now you're like echoing exactly what I said the other week. It's crazy.
Did you say that?
No, it's fine. It's just we've been on the different sides of things, and then like literally you're going word for word for what I said on Bliskovica the other week. It's hilarious.
There you go. As for the 47, the Washington, is it a South Dakota class? I'm not familiar with this.
So Washington was a North Carolina class battleship. USS Washington and USS South Dakota fought the Japanese battleship Kirishima and her heavy cruiser escorts in a night battle off Guadalcanal. And the South Dakota was severely damaged in her upper works and she by the cruiser fire. And then Washington basically by itself sank Kirishima in a couple of minutes with 16-inch gunfire. It was one of the only battleship on battleship engagements of World War II. And it's a lot of the people that really want Washington in the game because of her battle achievements.
All right, fair enough. Since it's a North Carolina, give it some straight shooting guns. The loop's got to go away. This is the only thing. This is the battleship that killed another battleship. Give it some straight firing guns, and that'll differentiate it from the rest of the line. You can keep the same Sigma, whatever, and everything else can be exactly the same. But since it's going to shoot a little bit non-loopy, like the North Carolina does, this thing's going to be a monster.
Well, actually, I would like to clarify something. The question you wrote to us, Kelorn, actually mentioned BB-47.
I'm pretty sure he meant. I'm pretty sure he meant 56.
Yeah, I think so too. So the Washington was going to be built as a Colorado class battleship, but she ended up being never finished and then used as target practice. And I think they made some kind of changes based on how she took damage to the future ships. I would like to see the USS San Diego, considering that I think she had the second most battle stars in World War II out of the American ships, Enterprise being number one, I believe. So I think that would be a fitting ship. It's an Atlanta class cruiser, so lots of fun.
Right up my alley. I think fine if you can do this two ways. You can have the Washington A and then the Washington B. It can be a Colorado boat that goes 35 knots. How about that? There's your flavor on that one. And then I stand by my other one if you want to do Washington B as a North Carolina class.
How about we have Washington A without the deck actually, or without like the superstructure or any of the guns, just the hull of the ship? And she serves as target practice.
You guys are terrible. Vanessa's going to be so mad when she listens to this. Realistically, I think that a cool gimmick, like we talked a little bit earlier about the Soviet battleships having a radar that tightens dispersion. I think that something like that would be very cool because that's essentially what Washington did is that she used her radar-based fire control to destroy Kirishima in a night battle. And so if we saw something like that in the game as a consumable, I think that would be a really cool way to differentiate her.
I think I believe at the Anchors Away at Anaheim, Sub-Octavian did his presentation there, and something that he said that kind of stuck with me on some of the radar changes that they had tried. They tried the line of sight that they decided it wasn't going to work. And then they said they tried dispersion factors with radar. And I know one thing that they said that they could not get it a good balance. It was either too good and you never hit anything, or it wasn't good enough and you hit everything. So I find that would be really hard to balance. Now I like the idea, but I don't think that they could balance that reasonably well. I don't know.
Yeah, that would be the difficulty of it. Like you would have to. I just think I would see it working kind of like the reload booster does on the French ships. Is, you know, it's a really short duration, but during that duration you have laser accuracy.
You know what? I don't know about any historical ship, but I want to throw this out there too before we get out of here. Give me a ship with small guns. Give me 11-inch guns. Give me a Scharnhorst. But my God, those things are hand over fist, dude. That really tight, really low damage, but really high accuracy. And I'm going to absolutely enjoy that ship 100%. So whatever you could find that fits that, there you go. There's my historical. Come on.
Oh yeah, one other ship that I would like to have in the game, Akagi, please. Oh, and obviously the torpedo cruiser that doesn't exist apparently.
Do you guys think that the was it the Kitakaze or Kitakame or whatever it's called?
Kitakami.
Would Kitakame? Do you think that it has a place in this game right now?
Yes, although I think she probably wouldn't be tier 8 anymore because DDs will just eat her alive.
Well, I the only reason I ask that question is because with all the torpedo spam and the torpedo reloaders, there's that many torpedoes on the ground or in the water at any given time, and I give her, you know what? Here, caveat this to that: give her half a rack of deep water torps and a half a rack of regular torps. There you go, best of both worlds, and now she can kill everybody.
I honestly think that you could bring Kitakame into the game as a PvE only ship.
That's fine. Keep it on like events or keep it on like an operation or something like that. You know, like they do the subs. The subs I think worked fantastic in the PvE. I don't really see them working so well in the regular game. But yeah, keep it in the operation or something like that. That'd be fun to play.
Well, I don't think that's a good idea. I think they should make her a regular ship.
That's because you want to dump 20 torps on somebody.
Yes, I do. Also, screw those filthy battleships that sit far away, you know. Maybe give her like torpedoes that accelerate, so the further away you are from her, the higher the chance you'll get hit by those torpedoes or something. Anyway, although jokes aside, I think if her problem is still the fact that people would deal too much team damage with her, maybe make her one exception where her torpedoes simply don't deal any team damage, and just release her as is, because I honestly think that considering the amount of people that have wanted her in the game, I think she would probably sell rather well, and it's kind of baffling to me that Wargaming hasn't capitalized on that. I mean, it's basically free money for them, so why haven't they done that?
So would you rather see Kitakame in the game or Shimakaze with a reload booster?
I'm sorry, I meant Kitakami, yeah, and I would like to have kind of both, but I think reload booster and Shimakaze might be a bit too obnoxious considering how powerful she already is. So I think I would pick Kitakami.
How about this? You can only torpedo reload with 20 Ks.
Oh God.
Well, I mean, yes.
How awesome would that be?
Sure.
I think I'm all for this.
I mean, the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
I have people come in, and I'm very different when I play the Shimmy. It's a fantastic boat. I love playing this thing, and I love playing with the 20Ks. Honestly, I honestly hit more torpedoes with the 20Ks than I do with the 12s, because people are so far away, and I drop them. They're like, oh, they're spotted from like 8 miles away, but then they don't move because they think they're going to fall off, and they never do. And I think it's great.
Oh, so you're one of those people. You see when
that's right.
When you say that they're so far away, the problem isn't that they are far away. The problem is that you're not close to them.
I don't have to be now. They're not ever coming in within 10 kilometers of me. There you go.
That's a good point. But what I'm trying to say is that, you know, both of you can move. You can go closer to them.
Why would I want to do that? I'm in the cap. They're nowhere near.
So you can get radared and die, obviously.
Well, there you go. But I can still drop my torps at that big death ball sitting over there because they're too scared to come out because of the CVs around.
I need to have you guys on the show together more often because, good God.
Speaking of which, maybe we could have 20-kilometer torps and CVs.
Oh,
How
God.
about that?
Don't even go there.
Oh, geez. Man, can you imagine that?
You guys
Boy, I wonder how much damage Gaishu would get then.
Especially make them like really slow torpedoes. So you fly there, you drop the torpedoes, you fly back, and they still haven't got anywhere. So you can drop more of them.
No, I got
torpedo
this.
yourself with those.
I thought that there was a video. I remember specifically seeing a video about a rocket propelled torpedo. Do you guys remember this video?
No.
That was put out by Wargaming.
Oh no, I don't know anything about that.
You don't remember this video? Okay, I don't remember how long ago it is, and I don't know if I could find this thing, but I'll find it. I'll try to after the show is over here. I will go try to find it, and I'll link it to Kelorn and see what he thinks. But
is it one of those super cavitating torpedoes?
I'm not sure what it was, but it was a rocket propelled torpedo that would come up off of the boat. And then it would fly, 10 kilometers or whatever, and then drop, and then go another.
Okay, those are called ASROCs. Those exist. That's so. Most modern USN ships have ASROC torpedoes. It's a Mark 50, Mark 46. I think it's a Mark 50 torpedo, basically strapped to a rocket booster, and then they can press a button. The missile launches and then it drops the torpedo in the water. Those totally exist.
Right. Now, I specifically remember that Wargaming had put out a video, hey, look at what we're working on. And now I've never heard anything else behind this, but let's give the Shimakaze these torpedoes that they go 5 kilometers in the air or 10 kilometers in the air, and the rest of them, they go 20 kilometers after the end. So you got 30K torpedo potential there, and you got 15 of them and a torpedo reload booster. So there you go. Aerrroon, let's go kill some teams.
I think the cool thing about that would be that those torpedoes wouldn't be usable by going really close to a ship and then dropping them on the ship, which I think is a bit of an obnoxious thing that DDs can do. And I think reload booster makes that much worse of a prospect, especially now that BBAP doesn't deal that much damage to DDs. So, I think the idea wouldn't be too bad.
Think about it, though. Think about this. You're sitting behind an island.
Oh God!
You launch these things straight up in the air and over the mountains on Two Brothers or wherever you are. So you are a Shimakaze playing as an Atlanta, humping up and on island, launching torpedoes over the island, going 20 kilometers.
Well, I mean, here's another idea. Maybe the Kreml could, fire torpedoes from her main batteries instead.
Well, they're big enough, right? I mean, we're already firing Volkswagens out of the Yamato, so why not torpedoes out of the Kreml?
All right, guys. Well, I think we need to cut the fantasies short here a little bit because we've already been recording for an hour and a half. So did you guys have anything that you wanted to throw in? Thank you very much for coming on the show today, SirVenom. I'm looking forward to meeting you this weekend.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting you guys this weekend as well, man. I don't drink beer, but I'll definitely buy you a beer if we're down there. But heck yeah, man, I enjoyed it. Thank you for having me, man. Kelorn, Aerrroon, I love talking to you guys. Anytime y'all want to come and hang out and play some games on the stream, man, you guys are more than welcome.
For sure.
Awesome.
I'm pretty sure that Aerroon's going to come and make all of your people laugh.
Well, he makes me
try.
laugh, so
we'll
that's
try.
good.
All right, you have anything to add, Aaron?
Nope, not that I can think of.
Alrighty. Well, that's it for this week, folks. We have a new spot on the NA forums just for the Warships podcast. Be sure to check that out for news and posts, and it's a place that you can post your questions for the Question of the Week segment. Check for that link in the description as well. As always, follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Warships Podcast and Twitter at Warships Podcast for updates between episodes. Don't forget to check out Aerrroon on Facebook or YouTube and Twitch as well. We, of course, want to thank our amazing Patreon backers. If you're interested in supporting us, please consider becoming a backer yourself. You did hear that they got their questions answered here on the Question of the Week segment. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you next week.